statistician from Italy, and he came up with a distribution of all the four components combined. And again, this is the same name they use. So this is what this distribution is, closed schema, or in short, the CSN. Okay. So it's kind of the distribution of alpha I plus DIT minus UIT minus eta I. So two of these components, they are time invariant, alpha and eta I, and then again two of them are pairing over INT. But again, I could never imagine even in my dream that there would be a distribution of this four component. But again, you can never say that, well, this is impossible. So I try to use the word that this is difficult. I don't use the word impossible because I know somebody might be able to come up with a distribution at some point in time. So anyway, so they figured out that what they call the distribution is key normal. They derive the density function and they talk about maximum likelihood estimation. Right? But what I'll be telling you now is that, well, there is a simpler way of doing it. This is what I did in my first paper in 2014. So I just so this is the same model. This does not happen too often. So I was working on that, and these Italians were working on exactly the same model. Okay, so again, as I said, this does not happen that often with researchers in two different continents. So I didn't know anything about them, and then again, they didn't know anything about me, but we were working on exactly the same model. Okay, but their approaches were different. But again, nonetheless, the model setup is exactly what you see here. Okay, so instead of talking about maximum likelihood, which is quite complicated, and since I avoided talking about maximum likelihood, let me just show you how the model can be identified, or these estimates of eta I and UIT can be obtained, because those are of interest in addition to the beta parameters. Beta parameters are, again, as I said, elasticities, which is coming from some economics, or again, economic model. So again, this is what I wrote down because I didn't have the slide with this easy step. So again, the basic question is, as soon as you write down the model, people will be asking, how can you separate, like this eta I, which is changing in I dimension, and alpha I, which is also changing in I dimension, because they are in a way similar. So then again, what I'll show you that how easy it is to identify those things. So the assumptions are this following: that alpha are the individual effects. Okay, these are random, so it has a geometry, which is standard. And again, if you just say the mean is non-zero, that can be handled. But there is no reason to believe that individual heterogeneity is going to be in a non-zero mean. Okay? But again, non-zero mean can be handled. Similarly, VIT is a geometry because it's a random variable. Okay, noise. And again, if you don't like, you can make the mean non-zero, but again, it doesn't have any consequence at all. Okay. So the important things are in here. This eta I, this time invariant inefficiency, since this is non-negative, it has a non-zero mean. So I'm just writing residual. The mean is equal to A, where A is some unknown parameters. Similarly, expected value of UIT, UIT is inefficiency, and the mean is equal to B, and then again that's positive because it has to be a positive number because these are one side. Okay. So what happens is that now we go back to the model in here and then rewrite it. So the rewriting is done in this way. So YIT is equal to this, and then remember what I'm doing, eta I minus A. So I'm subtracting A from eta I and subtracting B from UI. Okay, why am I doing that? Because I want to make them zero mean random variable. Because I'm subtracting the mean. So what is the mean of eta I minus A? By construction, the mean is zero, right? And then again, what happens to A and B? Remember, when I do that, I'm adding A, minus and minus plus, and I'm adding B, right? So I have to subtract A and B, right? To make the model same as the original model. So where do you think that A and B will go? Because these are constant, they will be added back to the intercept. So the intercept is not going to be beta 0, but beta 0 minus A minus B. Right? So I'm calling that beta 0 star. Okay. And then again you have xit beta, and then let's draw these two together, alpha I minus, so this has a zero mean, this has a zero mean by construction. So these two together will have a zero mean random variable, which is changing in the I variance. Okay. So let's call it alpha I star. Okay. And this is also, this is zero mean by assumption, this is zero mean by construction. Okay. So this is again a zero mean random variable, call it VIT star. So the mean of VIT star is 0, mean of alpha I star is 0. Right? So now if you look at it, it is just like a standard panel model, right? Panel regression. You have individual effects and you have the random term. Right? So the estimation of this model is simple. So you just go to panel data regression, and this can be done even in EDUs. Okay. So what you do is you estimate 1, that's what you do, beta, this estimates, and beta 0 star if you want. Okay. And then when you do this in panel regression, it doesn't matter whether you use data or EDUs or some other things. You can also ask for prediction of this and this. Okay. So there is an option after estimation. You just say that we'll predict individual effects, which are alpha I star, and the predict VIT star. Okay. I mean, the names are not going to be, the names are given in their own way, but these are prediction of individual effects. This is prediction of the time varying effects. Right? So then again, in step 1, what we do is we estimate this model using standard panel data technique that will give me the estimates of the beta coefficients, right? And then prediction of this and this. Okay. So I just got that you use panel technique to get, again, these are of interest to me directly after getting beta. Okay, because I'm interested in separating NI from alpha I and VIT from QIT. Okay. And then again in step 2, since the computer will give me prediction of alpha I star, that means it will predict what value of alpha I star is, that means you can think of this as a known number, known variable. Right? So what is alpha I star? Remember the definition of alpha I star is this: alpha I minus eta I minus A. Right? So I'm just writing it like this: alpha I star is equal to alpha I minus eta I plus A. I took the bracket out. Okay. So now if you look at it closely, what is it? This is a normal random variable, this is a half normal, and this is a parameter. Right? So this looks like a very simple stochastic frontier model. There is no x. But again, this is fine. Okay. So this stochastic frontier model has again like a normal random variable and a half normal random variable and just a constant, the intercept. Right? So you can run this model in SCADA, and then the SCADA will give you what? Predicted values of inefficiency. Remember the way I was talking about in the beginning of today's lecture, that how you get estimates of or prediction of UI. So now instead of UI, we are using different notation. So you get predicted values of eta I. So now you can see that I can separate alpha I from eta I because they are two different distributions, right? So I'm not looking at all the 4 things together. I'm separating this thing, and this is the whole idea. Okay, because if you're thinking in terms of all the 4, there's no way. Okay, you'll be always saying, well, I'm lost. I cannot figure out how to get out of that. So I can get an estimate of eta I. That means I can separate alpha I from eta I by using this distribution assumption or doing this stochastic frontier on this very, very simple model. Okay. Okay, then again we go to step 3. And what is step 3? Well, you get a predicted value of VIT star. Because remember, when I run the stochastic frontier, I get, panel model, I get alpha I star and I get VIT star. What is VIT star? Okay, let's go back. This is VIT minus UIT and then minus plus BI, right? So I'm writing VIT star is equal to VIT minus UIT plus B. And remember, this is a predicted value, that means this is a number. Right? Data will give you one value for each int. Right? So this is going to be kind of a new variable that is being created after you estimate the model. Okay. Uh, so now again, like the assumption is that VIT is normal, this is half normal, and this is a constant, right? So this is also a very simple stochastic frontier model, right? You have a normal random variable, you have a half normal random variable, and there is no data set other than the intercept, right? So this is the simplest possible stochastic frontier that you can think of, right? So you run this thing, and then that will give you a predicted value of UIT. That's all. So again, in step 2, you get the predicted value of VI, and in step 3, you get predicted values of UIT. So both transient or time invariant inefficiency and time varying inefficiency can be estimated from that model. So you need 3 steps. Okay, this is again the simplest possible model or simplest possible way of showing how you can identify and how you can estimate this components. Right? And then again, the first step is just a kind of standard kernel regression. So this one is the simplest out of all 3 different specifications that are used in the literature. So I just told you that there were 3 papers published simultaneously. Okay, one is this Columbia et al. That uses the CSN. That's the most complicated or most difficult formulation because it uses maximum likelihood and it's very difficult to estimate. Bill Green, what is that? That reference comes next. Bill Green came up with again a procedure to estimate this model, and he said that all this is not that difficult. Although when we published the paper, Bill Green was in the conference and he says that this model is too difficult to estimate, right? And then he figured out how to estimate it easily. And in the next conference next year, he said that well, this model is very simple to estimate. I started laughing because I was present in both the conferences, and I said, well, how come last year you were saying that this model is too difficult to estimate, and now we figure out a way to do it, and you just said, well, this model is quite simple to estimate. So anyway, so these models are like in Stata, you can get this 4 component model the way we estimate it because we provided the Stata code to everybody how to estimate it in simple ways. And many people like this thing because you don't have to deal with this in a closed scheme normal distribution because you don't know what it is. It's very technical specification of the distribution. Um, so whenever I talk about it, I always go by this because I know that this way I can convince everybody who has very basic econometrics. Even my undergraduate econometrics student. Okay, I don't teach it there, but again, like I teach a little bit of panel data in that class, and they can also understand that. So then again, what is happening is this is this 4 component model. This is the last generation, and we don't have anything beyond that yet. I don't think that there is anything possible in that direction. So that's probably this is a closed end of this model. The only other thing that I've done is that you can add determinants of inefficiency in here, determinants of inefficiency in there. So we got some papers. I have a paper with a co-author where we did this UIT is a function of some z variable, and then AI is also a function of some z variable, but they are different. Because remember, AI is going to be time invariant. So you need variables that are not changing over time. And for the z variable in here, you need variables that are changing in both I and t dimensions. Okay? So this model is quite data hungry. You have to have a lot of data. You not only have your x variable, but also 2 sets of z variable. One is changing in both I and t dimension, and other is changing only in I dimension. Okay.
So there is no scope of improvement in this 4th generation model.
Well, I have been thinking about it, and then again, the only improvement we did was that you add. Yeah, no, I know the time, so there will be no break, so he can take over right after me, which is like 5 minutes. So this is you can add determinants of inefficiency. That's one thing, and another thing that we did is again relaxing the distribution assumption. Because this is also always a sticky point that while you identify through distribution, and there are many people. Because there are critics, I mean, for good reason or bad reason, they always look for holes, right? That well, your model has some problem because their job is to find out, like what is wrong. There's nothing wrong with the distribution assumption or wrong. But then they will say that, well, how do you know? Okay, so then again we have a specification which is exactly the same as this one, but instead of assuming this to be abnormal, this to be abnormal, we just say, well, these are functions of some z variable, and then again we just scrap the distribution assumption entirely. So there are again some models like that are published also a few years ago. So again, coming back to your question again, no, I don't think I'm not thinking in terms of anything new on that. But whenever I present this type of thing, I always say that well, people who are not familiar with this, they might come up with something because they will be looking at it from a different angle. So like when you are driving, I gave you this example. That means if it is unknown, that you will be focused on the road. You won't be looking around, right? But the passengers, right, they can look at in front, whether you are getting too close to the car in front, um, or they will be also looking around, and so they have much better visibility. Okay, so this audience again, they have better visibility than me because I'm focused in one direction, and that direction is specifically just talking about this things. But again, I mean, you can think in terms of adding more components, but that's it's already too complicated, and so maybe it's just time to go in other directions, and those other directions I was talking about is just to get rid of distribution assumption and doing some fancy econometrics. So and there are people working on those, and I have also done something on that. Okay, so that is basically the end of the lecture on panel modeling. So tomorrow, I think what will happen is uh, Professor or Dr. Jagindar will talk about some of these things. If he does not have any time to finish those things, then I will take over. Because the important thing for you again, is just to see whether or how you can implement some of those things. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody working on any project. It would be kind of interesting to see whether somebody has any project, meaning that they have data, so we can upload the data and do something. But that is not possible, okay, because you don't have any project. Okay. So what we have to do is just we have to look at some of the set data that I have provided, and I'll be using some of those things. Okay. But again, like if you have any questions, because I keep on asking you that again, you may not have the data, but you might be thinking that well, you can get data on let's say there are companies on something or agriculture or something like that. Feel free to ask. Don't ask me that well, whether I have any data. I'm here to ask you that question, whether you have access to some interesting data that I can work with some of you and that type of thing. Okay, so I'll stop with this. Okay, so you can now jump in.
Now we will discuss globalization and resource use efficiency. As the focus of our course is on measurement of efficiency and productivity. So we would like to contextualize the efficiency with international business. And in these slides and this discussion, we would like to discuss some indicator used for international comparison of efficiency. So first we would like focus on understanding the globalization, some indicators of globalization and indicators of resource use efficiency used in the context of international business. And resource use efficiency in Indian agriculture, some empirical evidence as well from Indian agriculture sector. So first we would like to define the globalization. Globalization refers to the process of increasing interconnectedness and interdependence among countries. This is among countries rather than two or three countries. This is a large scale process. With large number of countries, now we are ready. So globalization refers to the process of increasing interconnectedness and interdependence among countries, driven by the exchange of goods, services, information, technology, and cultural values across borders. So globalization may have different types. And for splits of business, one common type is economic globalization. And we have some indicators of economic globalization. And one of them, most important, is trade. In context of trade, expansion of international trade, facilitated by reduced tariffs, trade agreements, and advanced transportation system, indicates the process of globalization. For example, for increasing the international business, we can reduce the export and import duties. That is to reduce the tariffs. Trade agreements, one of the most suitable example for global trade agreements is World Trade Organization with 166 member countries. And these countries are accounting for 98% of the world trade. So WTO governs the large part of the global business. So this is an indication of increasing globalization. Another aspect may be investment. Investment may be in the form of the FDI. Increase in foreign direct investment and multinational corporations establishing operations in multiple countries is an indicator of the globalization. If FDI is increasing and there are a large number of multinational corporations which have operations in more than one country, then this is also an indicator of the globalization. Labor market, movement of labor across borders, outsourcing, offsourcing of jobs may also be used to measure the globalization. Outsourcing of job means we are offering the job out of country. Outsourcing means we are offering the job out of company. It may be within country, but we are offering the jobs out of country, then it is known as offshoring of jobs. And another indicators of globalization, global value chains, integration of production process across different countries. One part of a product is made in one country and another part, and in one stage processing in one country and other stage processing in another country. That is the rising global value chain. This is also an indicator of the globalization and economic indicators of the globalization. Another type of globalization is in the form of technological globalization. And technological globalization may have different aspects. For example, digital connectivity. Internet and communication technology connect people globally. For example, through WhatsApp, you can call with the people anywhere across the globe. And it may be free of cost through WhatsApp and internet call. So we are digitally connected across the globe. So this is also an indicator of the technological globalization, enabling instant sharing of information. We use LinkedIn, we use Facebook and other social media platforms from where we can get the information across the globe. In LinkedIn account, participant may be from any country. And when we are sharing the information, they are instantly getting this information, which is not feasible at so promptly in lack of the digital connectivity. So digital connectivity also provide some aspects of the globalization. Innovation separate, tech transfer of technology. Here I would like to differentiate between invention and innovation. Invention is a totally new idea, but innovation is the implementation of that idea. If any country, any company has a new knowledge, new research, then another farms, another countries may also adopt it. So this is the innovation. So innovation is separating at a faster rate. For example, China, South Korea, India are some major hubs for innovation. Another aspect may be cultural globalization. It may be in the form of cultural exchange that may take place in the form of diffusion of the cultural elements like food, fashion, movies, languages. In today's world, people like movies not from a country but movies from the another country as well. And so these movies they understand the culture of one another. People like food, and there are so many shops within India, so many hotels which may offer Chinese food. So this is one form of cultural exchange. People in India may eat Chinese food, and people in India may like fashion like developed countries and other countries like USA. Which type of dress is preferred in USA, and people visiting USA may like such type of dress in India as well. That is, some fashion may be common across the countries. This is a cultural exchange. Homogenization. Global brands and media sometimes lead to uniformity in consumer preference. Some type of cars are preferred not only in US but same car, same is available in India as well. So this is one type of humanization of consumer preference and the lifestyle. In India also lifestyle is changing, and there is large impact of the lifestyle of the developed countries. So this is one indicator and one indication of the humanization. Another may be in the form of hybridization, fusion of global and local cultures, creating new cultural expressions. We take some aspect from one culture, some aspect from other culture, and some aspect from third culture. So this may be hybridization of culture. There is no original culture. There may be a mix of culture as well. That is hybridization of the culture. So this is an aspect of the cultural globalization which is taking place across the globe. We have another type of globalization, that is political globalization. Political globalization may be in the form of international corporations. Formation of global institutions like World Bank, International Monetary Funds are indicators of the international cooperation. United Nations, which includes General Assemblies, International Court of Justice, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are accepted across the world, and these are provided by United Nations. And United Nations is organization, is a multi-country organization, global organization. So this is the form of an example of the international corporation which is taking place. United Nations development program to address shared challenges like climate change. For climate change, there is a need for international cooperation. This is the issue of not one country, but this is the issue across the globe. And there is required solution of such problems. International cooperation is required, and there may be conflict as well, and there may be health issues. For example, in national context, In India, people claim Punjab people for pollution in Delhi. At international levels, developed countries put blame on developing countries for pollution in their countries. This air comes from this country. Air can cross boundaries without considering the political boundaries. Political boundaries are in maps, but nature does not consider such maps. So the problem of the natural calamity is there is need for international cooperation. Policy influence. Influence of global norms and treaties on national policy. For example, adoption of liberalization, privatization, globalization policies. In India, we adopted the LPG policy in 1991, and this was much more due to international organization, International Monetary Fund. We need finance from the International Monetary Fund, and International Monetary Fund guide us. We can provide you fund, but you have to adopt these policies in your country so that you can get development. Your current policies, as per IMF observation, was not suitable. So they provided funding, but also some policies so that India can grow faster. So this was the influence of the international organization. That is also an example of the rising globalization. So we are living in a global world. Environmental globalization may be another form. For example, shared challenges of the climate change. There are so many treaties on climate change, and there is quantification also that you should reduce your pollution at that level, and you should adopt such type of technology for production process, technology that have low pollution. It may be required a higher finance. So there is a concept of climate finance as well. But this is also an indicator of environmental globalization. Global agreements, protocol and treaties like Paris Agreement aim to mitigate the environmental issues across the world, not for one country or two countries. So these are some types of globalizations in the world in which we are living. Some indicators of globalization, how to measure the globalization, as our course is focused on measurement, some quantitative measurements. So we may have the some quantitative aspects for measuring the globalization, and most common is trade as percentage of gross domestic product. If the ratio of a country's total trade, export plus import, to its gross domestic product is increasing, then we can say that internationalization is increasing. And if it is increasing for a large number of countries, then we can say that globalization is increasing. So trade as percentage of GDP may be used as indicator of the openness, whether a country is closed or openness. So another aspect may be trade volumes growth rate. In first aspect, we have considered the trade as in the context of gross domestic product. In second aspect, measures changes in the quantity of goods and services exchanged internationally, irrespective of the gross domestic product. If the growth in export and import is increasing, it may be slower than the GDP, but it is still increasing. If it is growing faster than the GDP, then trade as percentage of GDP will increase. But trade as percentage of GDP is not increasing. It never means that trade growth rate is not increasing. It may be due to faster growth in the GDP. So this aspect considered is effective of the GDP, growth rate of goods and services traded internationally. So this is another aspect, another measure for measuring the globalization. Export and import diversity. Variety and complexities of trade, goods, services indicate economic integration and competitiveness. Tariff and non-tariff barriers. Tariff may be in the form of export tax, import duty. Non-tariff may be in the form of requirement of licensing. And there may be quantitative restriction on export and import. That you can import this quantity, this goods in this amount, and you can export this commodity and in this amount and at this price. This may be in the form of non-tariff barriers. Barriers, import duty, 10% duty, 15% duty, that is a tariff barriers. But barriers may be in the form of non-tariff barriers. For example, requirement of the licensing and totally ban on export or totally ban on import, irrespective of the import or export duty. So these are the, if countries are reducing the tariffs, if countries are reducing the non-tariff barriers, and WTO's focus is on reducing tariffs and non-tariff barriers. First focus is on converting non-tariff barriers on tariffs and then reducing the tariffs. So this is an indicator of the globalization, rising globalization. And World Trade Organization as a global institution is promoting this such type of globalization. So we are living in a global world. Some other indicators: foreign direct investment inflows and outflows. The amount of foreign direct investment coming into or going out of a country. If there is a rising trend in FDI inflow or FDI outflow, then this is a quantitative measures of the measuring the globalization. And FDI inflow and outflow at global level will be same. For one country it is inflow, for another country it is outflow. So for international level, global level, if trends are increasing, then we can say that globalization is increasing. FDI stock as percentage of GDP. This is another aspect of measuring the globalization in terms of the foreign direct investment. Indicates the extent of integration into the global investment flows. Multinational corporation presence. If in some countries there are presence of multinational corporations, then we can say this country is more open rather than a closed economy. Today, world is open economy world. Global value chain indicators. Participation in global value chains. If in a country production process is taking place in different countries, we are manufacturing the cars in India, but some step of processing is out of India, then we can say that this is a participation in global value chains for the same product. Its final production stage take the one stage at one country, another stage in another country, and third stage in third country, and for final stage it may become back to the origin country. That is the global value chain indicators. Intermediate goods trade, exchange of semi-finished products across products reflect the interconnectedness nature of the economies. These are some measures for some quantitative measures for measuring the globalization. Capital flow indicator, portfolio investment. Earlier we have discussed the FDI. This is another form of the foreign investment, that is portfolio investment. Cross-border flows of financial assets like stock and bonds. If stock are for Indian company and purchaser and buyer are from the another country, then this is a portfolio investment. If they are directly investing, they are taking decision regarding what to produce and how to produce, and there is their own company, then it is FDI. If they are purchasing shares and stocks and bonds from Indian companies, that is portfolio investment. Remittances. Many people send by migrants to their home countries. For example, in Punjab, many people are shifted across the world and they send some savings to the Punjab back to their original countries. This is known as remittances. What they have earned, they have sent back to their original countries. So if remittances are increasing, it means more and more people are going outside from that particular area, from that countries. So this is also an indicator of the globalization. Rather than working within countries, people are working across the globe. International reserves. If a country is holding more foreign currencies, then it is also an indicator of the rising international integrations, international trade and investment. For example, RBI has some fixed ratio to keep the international reserves. If international reserves are increasing, then we can say that in many countries, globalization is a concept not for one or two countries. It is at a global level. If at large scale, countries are keeping international reserves and increasing trend in international reserves, then we can say this is an indication of the globalization. And same type of indicator may be labor market indicators, migration flows. If more people are migrated, for example, there is recent change in the migration policies and people are worried whether the migration from India to US will be same or it will change with regime safety in the USA. So this is if they facilitate the migration, then we can say globalization is increasing. If they restrict the migration, then we can say that globalization is reducing. Remittances to GDP ratio. Remittances we have already explained the earnings sent back to the migrant people, and we can measure them as a GDP ratio. And this ratio is increasing, then we can say that labor migration is increasing because more people are outside the country and they are sending more money, and then we compare that with GDP. So this is a quantitative measures to measure the labor market globalization. Technological and digital connectivity indicators, internet and communication technology usage, adoption of rates of digital tools for commerce and communication. There now in India is well established concept of e-commerce. So e-commerce we can trade across the globe. So this is also an indicator of the share of e-commerce in total trade. So we have international trades, technological transport, acquisition and deployment of foreign technology in local industries is also an indicator of the globalization. If local industries there is foreign technologies are available, then we can say that technological globalization is taking place. That is the technological transfer. Global institutions and integration indicators. Membership in global trade organization. If membership in international organizations like International Monetary Fund, like World Trade Organization is increasing, and more regional trade agreements are taking place, then we can say that integration among countries is rising. So this is also an indicator of the globalization. For example, now membership in World Trade Organization is 166. This is a large number. And in next year it may be 168, 170. Then we can say the number of countries joining the international organization are rising. So by this way we can quantify the globalization. Address to international standards, compliance with global norms and trade, labor, environmental practices. If we are following the international norms in labor, quality standards for labor, the environment in which they are working. If they are working in AC rooms, if they are working with fresh air at least, then we can say that we are following the international standards. So these are another indicator of the rising globalization. Exchange rate, financial market indicators. If exchange rate in one country is affected by change in exchange rate in another country, then we can say that there is interconnection between the countries. Foreign exchange market turnover reflect the level of international financial transaction. Composite indicator, these indicators are single indicator which we have discussed till now. There are many composite indicators as well. For example, KOF, Global Index. It combines several indicators to measure overall globalization level, including economic, social, and political dimensions. For economic indicators, economic globalization, there are so many indicators. For social globalization, for political dimensions, but KOF includes many dimensions and then indicates a overall picture which include economic globalization, political globalization, social globalization. Another form of example of rising international organization is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Organization OECD itself an example of the integration among the member nations. So this is also an indicator of the interconnectivity between the countries. Trend is an indicator of globalization. Trade as a percentage of GDP. According to the World Bank database, the trade to GDP ratio increased from to 5% in 25% in 1970 to 61 in 2008. So this ratio is increasing. There is rising trend. So we based on this ratio, we can say that trade as percentage of GDP is rising. So there is economic globalization. This is for the world as a whole. This ratio. It stagnated during the post 2008 due to financial crisis and COVID-19 periods at 52% level. So due to COVID-19 period, international transaction reduced and during financial crisis also international transaction reduced. However, it has recovered recently, particularly in emerging economies, reaching to 63%. This is a global ratio. For some countries it may increase, for some countries it may decrease. But when we check the overall, then faster growth is toward emerging economies. So it has again reached up to the 63%. So this indicator indicates that there is rising trend in the globalization. FDI flows shifted toward technology sectors and renewable energy. FDI is rising and in which sector? It may be better and much more focused on technological sector and renewable energy sectors. FDI are more coming in such sectors. Digital connectivity, rapid growth in cross-border data sharing and digital platforms. Environmental concerns focus is across the globe and there are so many global treaties and agreements in which ministers and government across the globe and at large scale participates. So this is more and more meetings and more address of more regulations are indicators of the rising interconnectedness and interdependence among the countries. So one important question in this the era of globalization and the customer sitting in a country, for example, sitting in Rohtak has option to purchase goods online. We check first in the market and then we check then at Google and then if rate at the Google is lower, then we prefer online. And online may be from another country as well. It may take 2-3 days more, but if quality is better, and price is same, or quality is same and price is low, then we prefer to purchase the from internationally rather than domestic market. So this we have claimed that our in our countries goods are produced with better efficiency, with better productivity, and in the highest better way. But if these are available in the international market, then we would not like to purchase from the national market because customer have the concerns for quality and concerns for the prices as well. They decide based on their personal benefit rather than conditions of the domestic industry. So the important aspect is the resource use efficiency. Resource use efficiency is a critical concept in evaluating the performance of production systems, and this connects the production system with the international markets. It assesses how effectively inputs like land, water, energy, labor, and other resources are utilized to achieve maximum output with minimal waste. So this is our resource use efficiency, and the meaning of efficiency is same as explained by sir. But this is an international context. Comparison is within countries rather than from of the same countries or from of the same areas. And instead of cost, we compare price as well. High resource use efficiency indicates sustainable and economically viable production practices, which is essential for addressing global challenges like resource scarcity, environmental degradation, and climate change. So this resource use efficiency, we can claim that a country have high advantage in producing a good. That country should focus on producing that goods and for another type of good in which they have less comparative advantage. They have less such type of natural resources, so they can import rather than focusing on production of that commodities. That is the actual concerns of the resource use efficiency indicator. We have some standard measures for international comparison of resource use efficiency. And most simplest among them is the nominal protection coefficient. Another may be effective protection coefficient. Third one is effective subsidy coefficient. Fourth one is domestic resource cost ratio. And finally, we will also use the export performance ratio. And we select the indicator based on availability of data. This indicator requires different types of data. So which type of data is available based on that we can select such type of the indicators. So most simple is the national nominal protection coefficient. Nominal protection coefficient is an economic measure to assess the level of protection provided to a specific sector or commodity by a country's trade policies. It compares domestic prices with international prices for the same commodity. NPC is the ratio of domestic to world reference prices of the commodity under consideration. NPC help in measuring divergence of domestic prices from the world reference prices. We take the ratio of domestic prices to the world reference prices. In our measures, NPC is the normal protection coefficient. I is the commodity for ith commodity, and P is price. D for domestic price. PD is domestic price, and PW is the world reference prices. And we take the ratio of the domestic price to the world reference prices. If domestic prices are higher than the world reference prices, the prices at which we can import. In Rohtak, we have the option to purchase from the local market as well as to purchase from the international market because we can purchase online. So in online, we don't consider from where this good comes. We need the better quality goods and at the appropriate prices. So if the domestic goods of the same quality and same commodity is prices is higher, then we may prefer as a customer to the international goods. So if this ratio is more than one, more than unity, it means there is a protection for the domestic industry. If this ratio is less than unity, it means domestic industry have some negative protection. So nominal protection coefficient of a commodity is the ratio of domestic price to the world reference price. And this gives a simple indicator of the efficiency. If our domestic industry is efficient, much more efficient, then prices may be low. And the prices may indicate also an indication of how which quality we have produced and at which prices. And there is simple calculation for the nominal protection coefficient. For example, domestic price of steel is $300 per ton, and international prices of steel may be, this is a hypothetical example, $250 per ton. Then NPC would be 300 divided by 250, and this ratio of NPC is 1.2, and this is greater than 1. It indicates that domestic steel industry is not competitive, and it may be indirectly we can say it is not so much efficient. A simple calculation. There are so many limitations with NPC. We will discuss in next slide. But a simple indication is that the same goods and same quality goods are available in international market at low prices. So this is the calculation, so much simple calculation. We have just compared the prices of two commodities, and based on this, we can claim that our industry is competitive or not competitive. Domestic companies of steel are. This is the situation. Then it indicates that domestic steel are protected. If you open the trade, then Indian customer or domestic customer will prefer to purchase from the international market. If we ban that import, then customer has no option. They are forced to purchase from the domestic market. But globalization is rising day by day, and countries have the global pressures not to unnecessarily impose tariffs and non-tariff barriers on the trade for increasing the customer welfare. Customer welfare is also a concern for international organizations. So this is the situation. Then we can say that domestic industry is protected by 20%. If international trade is open, then prices will come down. Commodity will be available from the international market. So this is an indicator of the indirect indicator of the efficiency as well. Next, we have interpretation of NPC value. If NPC is greater than 1, implies that resources are being diverted to produce commodities domestically that could be imported more cheaply, signaling inefficient resource use because we can import at low price. If NPC is less than 1, less than unity, suggests that domestic producers are undercompensated compared to the international pricing. Undercompensated, not compensated, which may deter investment and lead to suboptimal resource use in the long term. It means that we have pressed the domestic industry, and industry industrialists would not like to work in that area in long run because there may be ban on export. Price is higher in international market, but ban is export, then we cannot export those goods and we cannot enjoy the higher prices available in the international market. Producers are interested in higher prices, consumer is interested in lower prices, and the international market price is higher, then it is trade is free. Then producer may like to export rather than to sell in the domestic market. So this is also an indicator of the resource use efficiency. If NPC is equal to 1, it reflects the efficient allocation of resources, where domestic production aligns with comparative advantage. So this is some relevance of the nominal protection coefficient for the efficiency for in the context of international business. Compared to domestic prices to the value addition at the international prices. In this aspect, this is a input version of the NPC. We consider the tradable input and non-tradable input. The effective protection coefficient is a ratio of value addition of a commodity as domestic prices, that is the domestic prices of a commodity minus the domestic value of all tradable inputs required to produce a unit of that commodity to the value addition at world reference prices, that is broader price equivalent minus the value of all tradable inputs at the broader prices adjusted for transport, handling and marketing expenses. EPC is an improvement over the NPC to the extent that it takes care of the distortion in domestic prices of tradable inputs. It means that higher prices in domestic market to be higher prices of the input. Our industry is efficient, but input from where they get the prices may be higher due to tax system, and input prices may be lower due to subsidies. So this aspect is considered by the effective protection coefficient. Industry productivity is full, but prices are higher due to there are tax system on inputs. And in international market, same input is available at the low prices, but industry are banned to purchase from the international market. So by considering such things that at what prices tradable input is available in the international market and what prices tradable input is available in the domestic market, then we track the NPC because the NPC ratio may be affected by the prices of the distortion in tradable input markets. So this is the ratio of the effective protection coefficient evaluated at domestic prices and evaluated at the world reference prices. So this is an improvement over NPC, and in this we consider the tradable input only. There may be another input version that may be in the we have the similar type of interpretations, as we have discussed in case of the NPC. EPC also give the same reflection whether EPC is greater than 1, EPC is equal to 1, or EPC is less than 1. But this is the improved version of NPC. Another aspect may be effective subsidy coefficient. In EPC, we have considered only tradable input, but in effective subsidy coefficient, we consider non-tradable input as well. Effective subsidy coefficient is an improvement over EPC, further improvement over NPC as well as improvement over EPC, as it corrects the later by adjusting it for subsidies and non-tradable inputs in domestic economy. It is defined as the ratio of value added at the domestic prices adjusted for the net subsidy minus tax on all inputs to the value added at the border prices. In previous indicator, we have discussed only tradable inputs, but there may be taxes and subsidies for non-tradable inputs as well. So this effective subsidy coefficient correct the NPC and correct the EPC for non-tradable inputs also. It consider whether input may be low prices due to subsidy. For example, in India, government claimed that fertilizer is at subsidized rate. And recently, Government of India announced that they have increased the fertilizer subsidy. They claim that Indian farmers are getting subsidized fertilizers, so they may sell at lower prices to domestic producer at the due to lack of internationally prices for input. They claim that international prices of fertilizer are higher, but really maybe something different. But this type of claim are made in the domestic country in India latest. So when we compare the prices, we take for effective subsidy coefficient, we take consideration for subsidy as well as tax. Some input may be high, price may be higher for tax due to tax as well. So these affect the overall prices. So comparison of prices, we consider both in effective subsidy coefficient, we consider both tradable input as well as non-tradable input. In MPC, we consider only the prices of the commodity rather than input. In effective protection coefficient, we consider the input prices for tradable goods. But in effective subsidy coefficient, we consider the input prices both for tradable input as well as non-tradable input. So this its value may be greater than 1, less than 1, and is equal to 1. And this has a similar interpretation as the NPC and EPC. Another important aspect is the domestic resource cost. Domestic resource cost is the most widely used and comprehensive measure of the resource use efficiency in an economy. It determines the true resource cost to the economy and represents the opportunity cost of the factors of production. It is defined as the value of factor of production needed to earn a unit of foreign exchange for export of the commodity under consideration. Alternatively, DRC is the ratio of the cost of domestic non-tradable resources to the net foreign exchange earnings. For example, we earn 1 rupees through export. We earn 1 rupees through export. We earn $1 through export. To earn that $1, how much we have spent? If we have spent more than $1, then we have not competitive advantage. If to earn the $1 we have spent less than $1, then it means we have used our resources efficiently. If for same is for the production regarding import. If we have used in production more than $1, then we should import that commodity rather than produce that commodity domestically. So, and in this, what we use the shadow prices rather than the market prices. Shadow prices are the actual prices, and we can say shadow prices are the prices for the perfect competitive markets. In perfect competitive markets, we assume that there is no taxation and no subsidies. For calculating the shadow prices, we adjust the market prices for taxes and subsidies, and we compare whether we should invest within countries or we should import that commodity. If there is a cost less than the $1, the indication is that we should produce within country. If cost of earning $1 is greater than input of $1, then we should not export that commodity. This is the indication of the domestic resource cost. And we have already discussed the interpretation of the DRC value. DRC value may be less than 1, greater than 1, and equal to 1. If the DRC is greater than 1, then suggests that inefficiency in resources used. And DRC value less than 1 suggests efficiency in use of the domestic resources. If DRC is equal to 1, it means that domestic resource cost equals the foreign exchange value added, reflecting marginal efficiency. So these are the some indicators used for measuring the efficiency in context of international business. And now I would like to discuss some empirical evidence, empirical estimates regarding Indian agriculture. And NPC we have nominal production coefficient, EPC effective production coefficient, and EASC effective subsidy coefficient. And this is for wheat, and this data is for actual empirical data rather than hypothesized data. For 1994, 1995, 96, 97, 98, 99 up to 2002. And for sometimes this value is greater than 1 and sometimes this value is greater than 1. And values of NPC, EPC and EPC are almost same. They are representing the similar trends. So we can say that in terms of NPC, EPC and ESC, we are at par with global standards because sometimes this value is less than 1 and sometimes it is overall it is nearby 1 regarding the wheat and the situation change with change in technology and change in prices. But this indication is from 1994 to 2002. And this give a rough estimation of the resource use efficiency. Next we have estimates for the rice. And in case of rice, most of these values are less than 1. And this give indicators that India is a good exporter, global player in the rice export. And this also result also suggests the same things. That international market rice prices are higher than Indian market. That is why this ratio is less than 1. And this estimate give an indication that India has comparative advantage and resource use efficiency in production of rice. There may be many other aspects as well regarding environmental degradation and more use of water and land. But this indicator gives reflection that India has comparative advantage. India has efficiency in production of rice. Next is regarding match. And in this context also our indicators are less than 1. And this also indicates that India has comparative advantage and in the production of match. Another we have regarding the gram. And this value is throughout our reference period, this is less than 1. So we can claim that India has comparative advantage in production of the gram. And India has competitiveness as well as we can say that production of gram is the best use of resources. We can shift the resources from the production of other commodity towards the production of more gram. Because in case of gram, these values are much lower than unity. In case of wheat, these values are nearby unity, but in case of gram, these values are much below the unity. So we can claim that India has much better comparative advantage in production of gram rather than in production of wheat. But wheat has different type of requirement and gram has different type of requirement. For final decision, we consider other aspects as well. We have estimate for tur, and these all values are less than 1. And it matches with the policy of government of India as well. That shift resources start production of the other type of commodity rather than wheat and rice. Start production of gram and tur. And this our indicators also support that policy decision. And such policy decision for making the correct policy decision, we need such type of estimations. Next, we have estimation for mustard. And mustard, I also personally also recommend for production of mustard in Haryana as well. Whether we have adopted the pattern of rice and wheat, mustard may be a solution for land degradation. And mustard has a better market, and recently mustard prices have increased sufficiently. And there is a much more trend, and government minimum support prices have also increased. And there is a good scope for producing mustard rather than wheat. And our indicator also these are less than unity, less than 1. In case of wheat, these are above and below 1. But in case of mustard, these are mostly less than 1. So this gives the reflection that we should shift resources from wheat to mustard. So in mustard, resources can be more efficiently utilized. Similar cases for sugarcane. Most of indicators are above unity. So this gives a reflection that resources may be shifted to other crops. We have estimates for cotton, and for cotton, most of indicators are less than unity. These give indication that we should focus more on cotton production. This is the combined pictures, average picture for the period under reference. And when we take the average, In case of gram, it is less than unity and gram is first in our list. It means resources from sugar may be shifted towards gram, tool, jawar, maize. So this is the indication for resource allocation. Next we have similar type of consideration regarding domestic resource cost ratios. We have estimates for cotton, maize, wheat, and for most of commodities and even all commodities under our analysis. Wheat, guar, sugar, rice, mustard, 2 gram. Value is less than 1. So it gives another type of indication that we should produce gram domestically, we should produce mustard domestically, we should produce rice domestically instead of import. Because if we import, then $1 will goes out of the country. And if we produce, we can produce by using the resources less than the $1. And that $1 will be resources, for example, $0.5. That zero point 0.5 will also within the country. It is not going beyond the country. And if we are importing, we are using more than $1. If we are producing within the country, then it may be $0.5, $0.6, $0.7, and $0.9. We have the dollar within country, and we have used less than dollar. If we are importing, then we are using more money, and dollar is going out of the country. So these are some indications regarding agriculture commodities, how to resource allocation. So see, this give a reflection that gram minimum spot price should be higher. Instead of there should be much more increased percentages. If we are increasing the minimum spot prices, then much it should not be a similar percentage. We cannot claim that government has price increase for 5% for all commodities. If government is interested in price increase in prices MSP by 5%, then for gram it should be 7%. For tool it should be 6%. For mustard it should be 8%. This indication is this decision making is available from our DRC analysis. And for wheat we may think increase but comparatively less in comparison of gram and mustard. So such analysis give input for policy decision making. And a similar type of decision making government of India is presently following. So this type of analysis help us in resource allocation. Next we have combined figures for nominal protection crops and average figures for sugar, urad, tur, wheat, gram, rice, moong, groundnut, maize, mustard, and cotton. And we can estimate these measures in context of importable hypothesis as well as in context of exportable hypothesis. And we can see that if we are importing a commodity, then import price is different. And if we are exporting a commodity, then export price is different. A layman can think the import and export price will be same. But for the same commodity, we are exporter, and for the same commodity, we are importer. And export in case of export price is different, and in case of import price is different. So we can estimate this measure in context of in the importable hypothesis as well as in context of the exportable hypothesis. In case of importable hypothesis, we can say that import price is the world reference price. In case of exportable hypothesis, we can say that export price is the world reference price. And these are some suggested readings for these measures. And these books are freely available at Google as well as in our MD library as well. If anyone is interested in such type of analysis, then detail can be found in these books. And regarding question answer, we will discuss in tutorial sessions. If there is any particular answer question, you may ask at this stage as well. So now I think from my side it is over.
Thank you so much, sir, for this enlightening session. So tomorrow also we will begin the lectures from 9:30 a.m. So you all are requested to come on time. Thank you so much, everyone.